Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we'll continue with our discussion on one of the properties of an ism. There's 4 properties. One of them is, the first one is the status. So now we will discuss the concept of heavy versus light. So whether an ism is heavy or light is connected to its status. It's not a property of status, it's only a subtopic. So it's not one of the 4, heavy versus light. So the 4 is, gender, number, type, and status. So it's actually, heavy versus light is actually a part of the status. So heavy is the default for an ism. An ism only becomes light for specific reasons, which will be discussed later. So heavy words make an N sound at the end. So for example, zalimun, you can hear the N at the end, which means a wrongdoer. So to make ism light, we remove the N sound at the end. So there's 2 ways to make the ism light. So if the ism ends with a double harakat at the end, which is a heavy state, which in this table is highlighted in purple, so we can see that the harakat is double in each case on the last letter, then remove one of the harakat and then the ism becomes light. So on the left side we've got a row of heavy, which is highlighted in purple. You can see that there's a double harakat on the last letter, but on the right side we have the light version. So mu'minatun becomes mu'minatu because we just got rid of one of the dhamma. The mu'minatin becomes mu'minati. We got rid of one of the kasras, and then mu'minun becomes mu'minu. So we got rid of one of the dhammas, and then mu'minin becomes mu'mini. That's the light version because we got rid of one of the kasras, and the last one is mu'minatan, which becomes mu'minata because we get rid of one of the fathas. And the second way of making an ism light is when we're dealing with ending combinations. So this first one was actually dealing with ending sounds. And the ending sounds, if you remember from the last chapter, it's got to do with the harakat on the last letter. But when we're dealing with ending combinations, which is, you can see in this table, the way we do it is that we get rid of the noon at the end. So when we remove, whenever the ending combination has a noon, so it doesn't always have a noon, but when it does have a noon, we remove the noon at the end in the ending combination to make it light. So just to make it repeat what I just said, is that in ending combinations, when we find a noon at the end, then we remove the noon in order to make it light, to make the ism light. So on the left side of this table, the heavy versions, you can see that in each case there's a noon at the end. But that noon is part of the ending combination. It's not part of the word. If it was part of the word, then it wouldn't be an ending combination. And therefore we wouldn't remove it. We'd only remove the noon to make it light in ending combinations. So if you remember from last time, the ending combinations like was highlighted in purple. You can see in the first one is alif with the noon. The second one is ya with the noon. Then it's alif with the noon. And the second to last is the wa and the noon together. So these are all ending combinations. So in order to make this ism light, we just get rid of the noon. So the mu'minatani becomes mu'minata. Only the noon has been removed. Then the mu'minataini becomes mu'minatay. And the mu'minani, which is the third one, becomes mu'mina. And then mu'minaini becomes mu'minay. And then mu'minuna becomes mu'minu. And then mu'minina becomes mu'mini. With the concept of al, so when al is added to an ism, al usually means the. So when al is added to an ism, it is no longer called heavy or light. So the ism, you can't say it's light or heavy when it has an al on it. So one of the things that you should always remember, one of the fundamental rules, is that at-tanween, which means a double harakat, and al can never come together. You'll never see an al with a tanween on it as well, a double harakat. So the example below, we've written al-mu'minun. So the believer, this is wrong because you can see that there's an al on it, and there's a double a dammatain, so there's two dammas on the last letter noon. So this is wrong. You can't say al-mu'minun. There's no such thing. The correct way of saying is al-mu'minu, because al can't come with a tanween. So you'd have to get rid of one of the dammas to make it al-mu'minu, which means the believer, and that's correct in Arabic grammar. So when al is added, only a single harakat remains, which is highlighted in yellow. But just to remember that when there's an al on the ism, then the concept of heavy and light just doesn't apply. So this word that's highlighted in yellow, you can't say it's heavy or light because there's an al on it. So the concept of heavy and light doesn't apply when there's an al on it. So in any combinations with a noon, it stays on even when al is added to it. So for example, if we have mu'minuna and you want to put an al on it, you don't get rid of the noon in the ending combination. The ending combination stays. Okay, so if we just go up to the table, just give a few more examples. Like you got mu'minatani, the first one. So if you want to make that an al, it would just be al mu'minatani. You wouldn't get rid of the noon by adding an al to it. So again, here's some questions. You need to decide whether the following isms are light, heavy, or neither. Neither means that it's got an al on it, so therefore the heavy and light doesn't apply to it. The concept of heavy and light doesn't apply. So there's a bunch of words here. So if you try to actually go through them and decide for yourself if they're light, heavy, or neither, and then the answers are right below. Check if you're right or wrong. So as per usual, at the end of a chapter, we always recommend going through the vocabulary list chapter at the end of this book, and this should be reviewed regularly, ideally at the end of every session this curriculum is studied. Because as you learn knowledge to do with Arabic grammar, you need to make sure that as you go step by step forward, and then you improve, you expand your vocab as well at the same time.